Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. I am coming on to record my Thursday vlog. We will continue tonight to explore the Yama and Niyama. We are actually moving on to the first Niyama tonight at 8:15. I'm going to be on IG live streaming, so I hope you'll join me for my practice, in which we will explore Saucha. Saucha is cleanliness or purity of being. It is the first of the Niyama. So just as a reminder, the first limb of the eight-limbed path that we practiced was the Yama. And the Yama we like to look at as our moral observances. So how we interact with the world, how we treat others in the world as we go about our day-to-day lives, right? And then the Niyama, which is the second limb, takes that a little bit further and deeper, and it begins to explore our spiritual observances or practices with ourselves. So practices that we focus on in order to purify and clean ourselves, our vessels, our energies, our mind, our spaces, so that we can show up in the world as our authentic selves, right? Because in our authenticity is the place that we can tap into samadhi or bliss, joy, right? And that's what we're always seeking in yoga. We're seeking that divine union, that union with divine, that we as human beings have the ability to tap into as we are part of divine, and created with divine, in divine image, right? With a divine blueprint, as human beings. So that's what we believe as yogis. So the Niyama are the 5 observances that we practice with ourselves, okay? Ni is to go within, and Yama means moral. So the moral observances that we hold within ourselves. The first of which is Saucha, or cleanliness, as I mentioned. And that's what our practice tonight will be focusing on. So again, just as I discussed with the Yama, it's very similar with the Niyama, that there are several layers, right? We have these sheaths, as we view them in yoga, the sheaths of our bodies, starting with the most obvious form, the physical body, and going all the way to the most subtle, the bliss body or divine consciousness within. So within that, we have our mental body, we have our emotional body, we have our intellectual body, we have the breath body, or the energetic body. And again, we seek with Saucha, we're seeking cleanliness of all of these energetic sheaths. The cleaner that we can become, that allows us, that gives us the ability to show up in the world. So it starts with, obviously, just taking care of our space, setting up a clean a space, a clean environment to practice in, taking the time to clean our space properly, to set up our space properly before we practice. So just kind of giving a little bit of energy so that we're kind of set up for that mind state of clarity, of purity, of cleanliness. So like for myself, I'm a little bit of a neat freak, and when things get disorganized or cluttered around my house, it definitely affects my state of mind. And while I'm a mom of 2 kids and now a new puppy mom too, of course, I can't always keep things clean. I make an effort to keep my yoga space clean and keep the toys and the clutter out of my yoga space, because that way I'm more encouraged to go in there and do my practice, okay? So however you can set yourself up to make it a little bit easier for yourself to practice with less distractions, right? But then in addition to taking care of our physical space, it talks a lot, Saucha is a lot about taking care of our own bodies, This body is the container we have here in this life, and we want to care for it in the best way that we can so that we can continue to utilize it. Because when our bodies begin to break down, the container begins to break down, we are no longer able to tap into a lot of those a lot of that potential, which allows us the ability to use our bodies, our minds, our energies in service of the divine, right? So caring for your physical container, your daily practices of cleansing yourself, of cleansing your body, even as brushing your teeth, whatever your morning ritual is, whatever your self-care routine is. I like to be mindful with those things. So even as far as brushing your teeth, instead of doing it on autopilot and thinking about the things that you're going to be doing that day, thinking about the action as you do it, and slowing down in that moment. Even something as simple as, using a loofah sponge in the shower, right? To take the time to do it lovingly and with care, to give it your full attention. That's the puppy. So in that line of thinking kind of trying to turn off the autopilot, trying to be a little bit more mindful and creating rituals with these behaviors. So one of the concepts that I like to think about is habit versus ritual. Instead of it being, habitual, oh, here we go, another day, brushing my teeth, da-da-da-da. Really taking the time to slow down and feel the motion, smelling the toothpaste, observing the sensations, observing the thoughts. Our actions in life are a direct result of the thoughts that we have in our heads, right? So we want to tap into this, and I talked a little bit about this in the last vlog, but we want to tap into this observer mindset, right? In which we have an outside awareness that we can observe the thoughts that the brain is thinking without judgment, observe those thoughts, and be aware of them, right? So if you find yourself having, a lot of negative thoughts or a lot of negative responses, with that observer mindset, you can take a step back. You can maybe take some time to thought stop, to reframe. Maybe you need to take a walk outside and switch the scenery a little bit to bring some positive things into your current state of mind in order to decrease some of that negativity that's flowing in. But in order to do that, we need to first be aware and have this observer mindset instead of falling kind of into these thoughts and allowing that to be our experience, right? So that's something we're always cultivating in the practice of yoga, is that observer mindset and that awareness outside of what the mind may be experiencing in any given moment. So I talked about cleansing the body. I talked about keeping the space clean. I actually have made my own yoga mat cleaner, and I like to clean my yoga mat at least a few times a week, generally every time I practice, but at least a few times a week. And my yoga mat cleaner just consists of about a quarter cup of Castile soap. I like the Heal the Earth brand. So I use about a quarter cup of that. I put this in a spray bottle, a cleaning spray bottle. So I don't know, 2 liters, I'm not sure. And then I fill it with hot water about 3/4 of the way. I put just a couple drops of 70% rubbing alcohol. That's to sanitize. And then I put a couple drops, or 8 to 10 drops of one of my favorite essential oils. I do use tea tree a lot because it is known for cleansing. I also really like rosemary essential oil for my mat cleaner. And I also have a balance blend, which I use. So I mix that up. shake it up really well. And before I practice, I spray down my mat. I wipe it with a clean cloth. And again, get in that mindset of now it's time to practice. And when we practice, we come to the mat clean and ready to be purified and open to divine awareness, which always resides within. Again, it's just a matter of us tapping into that, right? So other ways that we can encourage Saucha in our own lives is by eating a clean diet, eating more whole foods, reducing the amount of toxins that we take into our bodies, taking time to make sure the body is a clean vessel, right? And then with our Asana practice, obviously that is another great way that we purify our bodies as yogis. It helps to, again, flush the lymphatic system so that there is fresh blood circulating through our veins, through our body, through the entire peripheral. It helps to get our bodies moving, make us feel more energized, right? So our Asana practice is a way that we purify the body. And then our Pranayama practice, which is our breath work in yoga, is how we purify our minds. And our energies. I'm sorry, the pranayama is more like it cleanses our energies, right? To release old energies and welcoming in new energies with that breath work. And then meditation is how we clarify our minds. Purify or clarify, I guess, but purify our minds, excuse me. So we are going to be working this evening on a purifying practice, which means we will be building a little heat. I am a fire sign, and I tend to have a good amount. Sorry, that's a dog. I tend to have a good amount of fire just at baseline. So again, in seeking sattva, in seeking balance, we want to be able to know where we're at with the fire element, because you never want too much, right? That would be excess, and you don't want too little because that would be a deficiency. So we will be building some fire in our practice tonight to purify that practice. That's what we seek to do in order to purify the body. We will also be working with a little bit of breath work to purify and cleanse our energies. Just looking at my notes to see what else I wanted to talk about in regards to Saucha. So the yamas, the reason, the 8 limbs go in a specific order for a specific reason. It's much easier to control our actions with the outside world. Those are our yamas. It's easier to control our actions than it is to control the mind, right? So we're going one step deeper with the niyamas. We already know how to act in society and in our relationship with others, but now we're going a step deeper to how we morally act in an attempt to cleanse the thoughts of the mind, because again, our thoughts determine our actions, right? I hope I'm not rambling. My notes are kind of like a little bit all over the place. I was listening to meditation steps again today on YouTube, and he is like blowing my mind with this information. He said one of the quotes that he said that I wrote down because I think it's so important to understand this in today's world, especially as yogis, when we want to, increase collective conscious. We want to increase our vibrational energy, thus impacting the universal vibrational energy. And as we know, there's a lot of negativity and a lot of polarity in the world today, right? Specifically in America. So it's what he said was it's a common practice to pollute the mind of the population. And I was just like, drop the mic. That's all I needed to hear. Like, preach. It is a common practice to pollute the mind of the population. And if we don't have this awareness to know, to recognize what we're intaking into our bodies and the impact that it's having in our mind, in our feeling states, thus in our actions, then we are simply, a cog in the wheel. We're living from our animal brain. We're not able to tap into that crown, to that divine consciousness, and have a step back and respond with greater awareness. And it even goes so far as the things you watch, the things you listen to, your podcasts, the things you read. These things really do create energy. So it's not like a common, or not common, but it's not a simplistic thing when we think about practicing cleanliness in a world that's not the cleanest, right? There's a whole lot of stuff going on in this world, but I'm not gonna go there right now. That's not what this vlog is about tonight. But on that note, my teacher Anna does say, and has said to me, that your container can't be too clean. We can't at any point be pure, because we don't live in a clean world. And as an empath, I have to be very mindful of the energies that I take into my space and into my realm, okay? And you do as well. We all do. So again, with this concept of cleanliness and purity, it's important to remember. It's important to remember brahmacharya, non-excess in all things, right? Even in cleanliness. We seek to be clean. We keep coming back to our mat to purify our bodies. We keep coming back to our breath work to purify our energies. We come back to our journal. We come back to our meditative seat to purify the mind. However, we are in this world, right? And we have responsibilities in this world and interaction. So I just say that to say, all of these ancient tools and wisdom are incredible to tap into. They've been really amazing and life-changing for me to utilize in my life and in my relationships. But remember, they came about in a very different time, in a very different world than the world we're living in now. So there is such a thing as being too clean. And again, this is all related. This is all relative to your environment and to your outside influences and things you deal with on a day-to-day basis. So as I mentioned, when our mind is clear and clean, we're able to live more mindfully. We're able to be present in everything we do. The cleaning is never done, right? Again, just with all of our practices, all of our sadhanas, we never get to an end point. And that's something else I've embraced in my own journey as a mom, as a yogi, as a householder. I'm always cleaning my house, and yet it feels like it's never clean. And it used to be a major point of contention for me. And now that I've learned to be mindful in my cleaning, even as I'm washing dishes and smelling the dish soap and looking out my kitchen window, I've found that I've begun to actually enjoy the process of cleaning just as much as that finished result. And in that way, I'm able to live more mindfully in my moment-to-moment experience, because I don't know about you, but I spend a lot of time cleaning. So Saucha, to embody the purity of being. And again, it's about non-duality, right? All of these observances come back to that idea of being able to observe what is happening without judgment, just being open and letting things unfold. Let them be. and they shall be. So I think I've said enough about that, about the yama versus the niyama. The yama is how we act with the outside world. The niyama is our inside world. Energy goes where attention flows, right? So what we're putting into our minds, into our bodies, into our mouths, into our energetic realms is what is going to come our way ultimately. So we can seek to make those influences as clean and pure as possible, and continue to repurify ourselves and sharpen our awareness. And I hope you enjoyed this vlog. Sorry I rambled. Sorry about my puppy going crazy. And I will see you guys at 8:15 in just a little bit here. I'm going to meditate for a few minutes and get ready for our practice. And I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight on the mat. Thank you so much for listening. Namaste.